Jamie here with TAC Air. In this video, we're going to talk about pressure switches and how to tell if they're bad, need to be replaced, or diagnose what's going on with them. So in front of me, you're going to see two very standard pressure switches. These have been around for years. These particular units are manufactured by SUNY. There's also LeFou, Hubble, Square D, a lot of import styles that you'll see. All of them, though, have the same basic functionality. So for what we're going to talk about today, this will be perfect for a reference. So you have in front of me two different switches. Everything about these switches is the same except for the bottom manifold. You'll see a single port version here, so it only has one air inlet. On this one, you're going to see a 4-port manifold. So this has 4 air inlets, or basically one inlet and then connections for other things like relief valve, gauge, regulator, those types of things. So depending on the compressor, you're going to have, one of these options. And depending on the field of work, you can have many different issues. But one of the more simpler ones that you see a lot in the construction industry is things will fall on the compressor. They'll get bumped, transporting the compressor, and the manifold will actually crack. So if you have a leak, you first want to look around these manifolds and see if there's a hairline crack or anything in the manifold where the air could be leaking out. The second place you can get a leak is where this diaphragm is on the base of the manifold where it attaches to the switch. If they're old, those diaphragms rot, especially if they're out in the heat and the sun all day. Those diaphragms rot, start leaking, and at that point the switch needs to be replaced. Then you have the unloader. So this unloader valve functions when the compressor shuts off to unload the pressure between the head of the compressor and the tank. So when the compressor shuts off, you'll hear this valve leaking for a very brief moment, usually just a few seconds, and then it shuts off. If the compressor shuts off and this continues to leak, you have a bad check valve, which we talk about in other videos. But that bad check valve is letting air out of the tank and causing this to leak continually until the compressor kicks back on. So if it leaks for more than a few seconds, don't instantly go and think your pressure switch is bad. When it shuts off, if that leaks, the only way it can leak is if you have a bad check valve. So you'll want to refer to one of our check valve videos and figure out where your check valve is and actually replace the check valve, not the switch. The most common thing people do, this unloader leaks, they run, replace the switch, get it all installed, and it does the same thing. After that, sorry, I unscrewed this one, but after that, we'll talk about the internals here. So inside here, you have 4 contacts and 2 grounds. There is some switches that can also be used for 3-phase that will have 3 contacts, but the majority of them will just have 4. This is like a stair step on the old furnace style, also known as Hubble. There's a lot of manufacturers that copy that design, so they're stair step contacts. The top is the motor terminals. The bottom is the line terminals. On Square D, they're all in a row, so you got 2 motor and 2 line, but they all function the same. So sometimes air can be leaking internally underneath these contacts. That is if your diaphragm is also bad, it gets a pinhole in it or something. So if it's leaking from underneath these contacts, you just want to replace the whole switch. A lot of people will look for parts for these, but they're not that expensive, or the majority of them aren't. So it's easier just to replace the entire switch. To take this apart, because there's a spring-loaded mechanism in here, it's going to fly apart in a whole bunch of different pieces. You're never going to get it back together. But if your pressure switch, so let's say your compressor does not kick on. So if your compressor is flipped on at the pressure switch and it doesn't kick on, there's contacts in here, and those contacts could be bad. A lot of times over time, especially if it's a higher amperage motor, they'll get burnt and then won't make contact. So if you have the ability to get a power tester, you want to test the power going in and test the power going out of this switch when the switch is closed. If you have no power going out, those contacts are bad. You need to replace the switch. The other issue you can have is when the compressor gets up to pressure, it doesn't shut off. So if those contacts in this switch actually get melted together, which can happen, they cannot come apart. So the switch tries to, when it gets up to pressure, kick apart and open those contacts, and it can't. It continues to run until your relief valve goes off, and then in that case, you're going to need to replace the pressure switch. So you can have melted contacts that no longer make contact, and you can have melted contacts that make that do not come apart, which cause the compressor to run continuously. Those are the two main problems. You also, if you get a loose connection, sometimes the wires can come loose in the switch. The contact where that connection is will heat up because there's more resistance, and you'll actually melt. You'll see a melted area. Anytime you see anything that has been hot, you're going to want to replace the switch and the wires if necessary, depending on what the issue is. Those are overall the biggest main factors of when you have issues with the pressure switch, what can happen. There's some compressors that have magnetic starters. You're going to see this on bigger compressors where all this switch does is send a signal to the magnetic starter. If that's the case, you're only going to see two wires in this switch, and one to motor and one to line, and all that's doing is connecting those when it gets below its pressure where the switch kicks on, and then telling that magnetic starter to make contact. Usually the switches don't go bad because it's not high amperage in that situation, but if that's the case, you can always actually try the other set of contacts to test, but it's always better if you have a meter to test the power going in and out to see if the contacts in here are bad. There's really no way to clean the contacts or fix the contacts, and even if you could accomplish that, they're going to burn up right away again, and so you're better off replacing the switch. If you're in need of a pressure switch or have any questions, you can contact us at TAC Air. You can visit our website at tacair.com. That's www.taccair.com, or give us a call with any questions. Thank you for watching this video, and we hope it helped out.